Hey guys, this is Heather at Homeschool Culture. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the yearly planning process. So these are things that just to think about before you get started, or maybe you're already in the middle of it and you're thinking, oh, I didn't think about that. And so the very first thing always is know your state requirements. So you might live in a state that requires specific subject areas to be taught, or maybe you have standardized tests at the end of the school year. And so of course, make sure you address that. So whatever that looks like for you and your family based on what state you live in, that is where I would go to first. Then I'm gonna look at some goals for my kiddos. It's not necessarily always academic goals. It could be, maybe goals for the future. So like for a high school student, you might be looking at, where do they want to go to college, or what do they want to study, things like that. And that might dictate what their curriculum choices will be. For younger kiddos, you might look at, is there anything that I've missed along the way? Because when we homeschool, sometimes we do miss things that they maybe haven't learned yet. And so is there anything that they have missed? All right, I love this book, Home Learning Year by Year, and they also have a book similar to this. I'm not sure if it's through like the same publisher or not. They actually break them down by year. Now, this is definitely not something that I like. I look at it, I'm like, okay, he has to learn this year because it says so in the book. But I can go through it and go, oh, he's never actually learned that yet, or she's never actually learned that yet. I might add that to the curriculum that year. Other goals might be, like social goals, like maybe adding extracurricular if you haven't been doing it, or maybe taking away extracurricular if you have, and you want more family time. So there's all these different types of goals you can look at. I would also say, make sure you have goals for yourself. Is that going in and learning about a specific teaching philosophy? So I just did a whole video on why we are an eclectic homeschool and the different philosophies we use within that. And so maybe it's taking time to actually step back and learn about those philosophies. And then some other goals for myself might be just the way I schedule my day, my planning process, whenever I'm planning throughout the year, things like that. So those are just some goals that you can throw in there as well. And then goals for your family. So this could include like habit training. Maybe you have projects around your house. Like we live on a little farm, and so there's always stuff to do, so maybe just big project that sometimes could actually incorporate into the homeschool. Even things like as a family, like getting outside more. We like to camp, and again, we live in Northeast Texas, so we love going up to Arkansas, which is a beautiful state. And this last spring, we went and did some kayaking up there and loved it. And so like maybe that is a goal for you as a family, just to get more trips, kayaking trips, on the schedule, things like that. The next step is to reflect. You definitely need to reflect on your school year, and this might even come before the goals, but you want to reflect on your school year. What worked, what didn't? That could be curriculum, that could be scheduling, it could be times, and when I say scheduling, so it could be the actual times of the day you do stuff, or it could be the days that you're actually taking off, or the time that you're actually taking off. And so this year we're doing 34 weeks, and it seems to work. It seems to work. In the previous years, we've done 36 weeks. We are very much a year-round homeschool. We do take off maybe one or two bigger chunks. When I say bigger chunks, like 3 to 4 weeks. And so the reason why I used to always, for the longest time, I started my homeschool in January and ended in December, and pretty much took off the month of December with lots of breaks in between. Because of the way the schedule was this last year, because my daughter did 8 weeks of 8th grade public school, we kind of jumped in at that time, and we're ending in a few weeks. We have 2 more weeks of school, and we're going to be done with this school year, and then I'm going to start back in August. If I would have planned it better, I would have probably not had the whole month of July off, but we need a break. And I would keep going, but like we need a break. Like we truly need a break mentally. But I'm definitely starting the first week of August, because in Texas, it's so hot. So again, why have these big chunks of time off when we can't even be outside enjoying nature, And so to me, really figuring out like, okay, that's like, even though I knew it was probably a bad idea to take so much time off in summer, just from previous years, I did it anyways, but that's okay. And so I'm thinking for like next year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in August, and then I'm going to take my normal breaks off and take the month of June off, and kind of make it like travel month, and not just like out of town travel, but like whenever our cousins maybe come here and we go to cousins' houses and things like that, and then start back in July. So I'm thinking that's how we're gonna do it, because June, not necessarily this year because it's been a hot one, but June is usually more mild, of course, and then July and August is, we have to stay inside. Like we don't even swim outside in August until it's maybe like 7 o'clock at night because it's that hot. And so like the heat in Texas is real. If you're thinking about moving here, just be prepared. And Northeast Texas is super humid. So not only, like the other day, it was, I think 92, and it said it was 113. Like that's the feel like temperature. There was one day that was closer to 100, but the feel like was 120. But when it's not like a dry 120, it's I go outside and I can't breathe 120. So whenever I say I want to move up north, that is why. Okay, moving on. Okay, so you definitely, I'm gonna go over real quick. So state requirements, goals for you, yourself, your family, reflect on previous year, what worked, what didn't. And then also, so along those lines, that is when, and I'm harping on the philosophies again, because I think it is so, especially for you new mamas out there that are new to this, and you maybe you've been doing it for 2 years. To me, that's still new to homeschooling. At least it was whenever I felt like that. But research what philosophy, like you kind of hear like on this YouTube channel this, and on this YouTube channel that, start researching it. And so instead of assuming that because they're doing it, it's gonna work for you, I would really sit back and research what it is. You know, give yourself that homework over this break to research it, which means maybe you haven't started your curriculum search yet. I definitely think you need to hold off on curriculum until you know for sure that is the philosophy you want to go with. If you want to go with like total the way school does it, because maybe one day I'm going to put them back in, or it's just what's easiest, you know, whatever your feelings are, then just always do what works for you. My opinion based on money, I've wasted so much money thinking I'm gonna go, you know, I watch a YouTube video, I'm gonna go buy all this stuff, and then I'm like, oh, but I really think I like this, and I start researching it, but I just bought all this stuff, which is totally opposite of what philosophy I plan on using. If you can, definitely just take that time to research the philosophies and figure out what would work best for your family. And then the next step is go in and choose your curriculum choices, which I'm gonna do a whole video on that. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so down below. Just hit that subscribe, hit that bell icon. And then of course, if you find value in this video, if you can hit that like button, I appreciate it. It just gets it out to other people. Okay, so the next step is you are going to get your calendar. Okay, so I print this off, Calendarpedia. So calendar, P-E-D-I-A. You can go, and normally I just type in like a free PDF calendar online and you'll get a whole lot of options, but this is Calendarpedia. And it is from it's a 2000, sorry for the coloring is messed up because I need to change my ink. But it is a 2003-2004 school calendar. And it just happens to start in August, which is where I'm starting this year. They also have some, I believe, that are July through June. So like that'll be perfect for me for the next school year because I want to start the next school year in July. See how you're already planning ahead? But what I do is this. So we are what I consider year-round homeschoolers. So we do not take a massive 2.5, 3 months off, whether it be summer or spring, fall, whatever. We go 4 weeks on, 1 week off. And so I know I want to start the first week of August. That is my goal this year, to start the first week of August. Also, before I forget, I don't just print one of these. I will print 4, 5, 6 of these because it is the schedule I'm creating right now for my family is a very loose schedule, meaning it's going to change absolutely. And I'll explain why in a second. I mean, the start date could even change, but my plan is to start on August 1st, which is a Tuesday. And so I just go in and I count. See that little dot? And then I count down 4 and then I put a line. That means I'm having off. And then I go to the next, you know, and then I just keep doing that. For the most part, it's usually 4 weeks on, 1 week off. But if you notice like in October, let me see if I can get this to pull up. Right here in October, there's 2 little lines. Because I know in October, the weather is nice up in Arkansas. We're gonna wanna go up there. The reason, okay, so let me backtrack for a second. The reason why I do 4 weeks off, 1 week on is, again, because we homeschool year round. That gets us about 34 weeks. I could make it longer if I wanted to and make it, you know, where we didn't have one big chunk at the end. But I know that I'm going to want to go up into Arkansas probably in October for maybe 4 or 5 days of camping. But I also know that I need a whole nother week off for planning the books I plan on getting from the library, any type of crafts or projects or anything like that, hands-on type stuff that I need to like collect stuff for, kind of wrap my brain around how am I going to teach this. And so instead of spending a ton of time in the beginning or the summer, and it changing probably, instead of spending a ton of time in the beginning, I gather resources. I know pretty much the content or the topics I want to teach. For instance, geography, I'm going to be doing South America. I know I'm going to do that, but every 4 weeks, I need to know, I don't want to so overplan that I just did a whole year's worth, spent many, many days figuring it out, and then it ended up changing because it took longer than I thought, or the kids really, really like went down this rabbit hole, and so we jumped over here for a little bit, or whatever the circumstances are. And so what I give myself is that week to plan, and you can do it 2 ways. You can do it like the week before, plan for the next 4 weeks, or you could even do it for like that week. Could be for the 4 weeks coming up. And so you're kind of always like maybe 8 weeks ahead. And then that way you can make sure, you put the book request in at the library and things like that. So that's another way to think of it. It's not perfect. I mean, there's times that I'll go in and I'm like, okay, I want this book at this time. I plan it out. I go to get it and it's not there, whatever. So, I mean, it's not perfect all the time, but for the most part, it works out that way. So that is why I do 4 weeks on, 1 week off. 4 weeks, I get a week of planning. I can also get things done like, okay, dentist appointments, and if I already have it kind of marked out, I mean, I know when, okay, this is when I can do dentist appointments or doctor's appointments or whatever. Again, it's very loose, so it doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly the way we do it, but, and I literally plan off 4 or 5 because I go in and I change it once we go around. So like, just because I took those 2 weeks in October for a week of planning and a week of camping, maybe my husband can't get off any of those weeks. And so then we're having to change it again. But it is definitely a loose schedule. So 4 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks in fall, 2 weeks at Christmas, 2 weeks in the spring. And we're done based on this schedule. As of today, we'll be done May 31st and take off the month of June. And like I said a while ago in the beginning, we will take that off for travel with family, cousins coming here, us going to cousins, things like that. And then we'll start our next school year in July when it starts getting super hot. That is how I utilize just these little, free print off schedules. All right, so that is it. So I know I didn't want to make this super long. And again, if you're wanting to know specific, well, how do you plan for curriculum? That's going to be a whole nother video. If you're looking at, like, I need to look at philosophies, I have a video on that. And then there's tons of other YouTubers that have videos out there as well. So I really think like this for me, because we're about to, we're finishing school in 2 weeks. And so those couple of weeks in July before we go back and start in August is time for me to go in and gather any more resources that I need. And then also just to kind of like, whenever I was a teacher, it was our time when we would go back a couple of weeks before the kids did. It was like our time to kind of boost and get excited about, the new school year. Looking at all the curriculum and all the new supplies and going supply shopping, maybe planning out a first day of school type thing. Oh, another thing I didn't put on here, but I think is important to add is field trips. And so if you are one that likes field trips, or maybe you're like, I really need to start doing those, planning out field trips. So we live so far from, like, not civilization, but we live pretty far out. And so, yeah, we have lots of stuff locally that we could do. But a lot of times, like if I want to go to good museums and things like that, I have to go to DFW, which is 2 hours away. And so that's another thing, like on that week off for us, I would be doing like field trips and things like that, because it literally is like a 2-day process for us to drive and go do field trips when we're driving into the DFW area. So just other things to think about. Field trip planning is definitely one that I would add to my yearly planning to do. And then, any big, like I said, any big projects, downtime, and that's another thing that you might want to be planning is, for a lot of us homeschoolers, when especially you new mamas, you'll realize that like, oh my gosh, I get done in 2 or 3 hours and then I have the whole day. And so like coming up with stuff for your kids. So there's things, if you have younger ones, it's like coming up with invitations to play. So you're laying out things for them. I think I have maybe one. Another word for that is strewing. I think I have one video from my old channel on strewing, but there's other videos out there as well. And just type in invitation to play or strewing, and even coming up with those activities for your kids. And I'm not saying you have to do it every day, but it does spark imagination and play for your kids, especially if they're coming from I've been at school in the public school setting for 8 or 9 hours a day, and now I come and I'm done in 2 or 3 hours and I have all day to do something. I prefer my kids not be on screens all day. And so I definitely try to think of things, okay, and sometimes it's kind of telling them, go play with those blocks or go get that game out, or whatever. And to me, that's just part of, the homeschool experience is that invitation to play. So maybe I need to do another video on that. I might get that done too. Okay, on that note, I hope you have a super blessed day and a blessed week. If you have any comments, if I missed anything, which I'm sure I did. So if I missed anything, put that down below and let me know what is your favorite year schedule. Do you like 4 weeks on, 1 week off? The Sabbath, which is 6 weeks on, 1 week off? Do you just try to do it all at one time and get a big, huge break? What works for y'all? So put that down below just so other people can get ideas as well. All right, on that note, I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.